Coming up tonight on the news at 5.
I choose to wear a mask, and I encourage others to do the same.
Governor-elect Greg Gianforte asks Montanans to protect their loved ones and neighbors from COVID-19. Plus, the Office of Public Instruction announces the federal assessment of education has been postponed.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 5.
Good afternoon and welcome to the News at 5. I'm Jessica Nelson. Thank you for joining us. Montana's next governor said the state needs to get a better handle on COVID-19 during his first news conference as governor-elect. Congressman Greg Gianforte said it's clear Montana remains in a public health crisis and the current trends are alarming. The Bozeman Republican said he wants to get recommendations from his COVID task force before providing more details on his plans for state action. However, he again emphasized his priorities will be protecting vulnerable people and reopening Montana's economy. He said news about vaccines is encouraging, but Montanans should realize they won't be widely available for quite some time.
In the meantime, I encourage Montanans to take care of their loved ones and neighbors and to protect their health and well-being. I trust Montanans to do what's right. I choose to wear a mask, and I encourage others to do the same.
Gianforte also said he's encouraged with how the transition has gone so far. He says he's going through hundreds of applications from people interested in joining his administration, and he plans policy rollouts and cabinet appointments in the coming weeks. Well, the convening of Montana's 2021 legislature is a month away, and its solid Republican majority is busy working on its priorities. Along with incoming Republican Governor Greg Gianforte, lobbies and policy groups also are busy making suggestions which they hope align with the wishes of the GOP majority and voters. Today, MTN Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison tells us about one of these plans that's coming out next week.
It's called the Montana Recovery Agenda, drawn up by a new free market think tank, the Frontier Institute, which is led by a former aide to Montana Congressman-elect Matt Rosendale. It calls for a conservative state budget, no surprise there, making regulatory reduction a requirement in state law, market-based healthcare reforms, and greater privacy for your personal digital info.
Of course, there are going to be bits and pieces of each of those plans that individuals might not agree with 100% of the whole thing, but I do think that the overall goal of it, protecting people's, personal rights, personal privacy, and reducing the expansion of government to the extent that government is being efficient with what we need it to do.
But while Republicans certainly want a conservative budget, Senate Majority Leader Carrie Smith of Billings says it's too early to say what that means in terms of spending levels or specific changes.
We can make ourselves more efficient. We want to make ourselves more efficient. Is that going to result in a decrease in spending over the prior biennium? We don't know that yet because we're just starting to get into the budget now.
Smith says he'll likely sponsor one of the healthcare proposals in the Institute's plan to authorize in law direct primary care clinics. These clinics bypass insurers, instead allowing patients to buy a membership for unlimited access to certain healthcare.
When you're looking at the high cost of healthcare, one of the really high costs is actually what we pay for in insurance. So if you take insurance out of the picture, and now you're dealing directly between the patient and the physician or the healthcare provider, you've eliminated the middleman.
Knudsen, the Speaker Pro Tem in the House, says he's interested in pushing for enhanced privacy protection of information held on personal cell phones.
Being able to make it very clear that you need a warrant to search through people's electronic data just as you would if you had to walk into their house and go through a filing cabinet.
GOP legislative leaders say they'll look at this plan and others and will be consulting with Governor-elect Gianforte and even minority Democrats on how they can advance an agenda to revitalize the state's economy. In the coming weeks, we'll be reporting on some of these other wish lists and proposals as they emerge. And next week, we'll be sitting down with Governor-elect Gianforte to talk about his game plan. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
The 2021 legislature is scheduled to convene on January 4th in Helena, although details of how it will operate in the pandemic and its overall schedule are still being discussed. All right, Now let's check our Friday forecast with Curtis. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Almost at the weekend right here, but good afternoon, everybody. Looking at beautiful, another day of beautiful weather here across the state. Sun going down here in Hayes, and you can see a little in the way of some clouds out there, but otherwise a real pretty sky. Now, that's not the case for everybody. I want to take you to Whitefish right now, downtown Whitefish, and that's not the top of the mountain right there. That is the bottom of a cloud. And we actually have low clouds around Whitefish and Kalispell, Flathead Valley, kind of socked in like they tend to get at times here because of inversions in the western part of the state. But besides that, I mean, this is as worry-free weather as you get here in Montana, and it will continue through the weekend. Colder air is coming, but we will talk about just how cold it is, or it will be. It's not 20, 30 below like it could be this time of year. And a wee bit of winter. A few flakes will be a-flying. I'll have more on the full forecast coming up later on in the show.
A composite of state and locally reported data shows Montana's COVID-19 case totals have surpassed 66,000. Active cases are nearing 16,000, and to date, 757 Montanans have died as a result of complications due to the virus. MTN is using a combination of sources to deliver the most accurate count on cases each day. Local county health departments may be alerted to cases before Montana DPHHS, and using that local data means there will be times when MTN coronavirus data does not align with the state report. Schools across Montana are still juggling a combination of remote and in-person learning. The pandemic has left a lot of parents unsure about the quality of education their students are receiving. And now we're learning that a federal assessment of education nationwide has been postponed here in Montana. The National Assessment of Educational Progress won't take place until 2022. Every 2 years, the test measures reading, math, and writing proficiency in elementary and middle school students. But this year, the National Center for Education Statistics says the assessment cannot be safely given. Montana Superintendent of Public Instruction, Elsie Arnson, says if you are worried about your child falling behind in school, you should keep in touch with their teachers.
Yes, it's a challenge that the test has been postponed. It'll begin again in 2022. The triangle that I have between school, family, and student right now, we need to maintain. And we need to maintain that it's all about learning. It's not about a test. It should never be about a test.
For more on the full interview with Arnson, just head to our website. That's KTVH.com. A movement to derail a years-long effort to create a national heritage area in north central Montana seems to be gaining traction. Next week, Cascade County Commissioners will consider a resolution to oppose the area. The debate has been heating up over the past few months, with supporters now accusing their opponents of spreading misinformation. MTN's Zach Shermley has been following this story and separates fact from fiction.
I am not a person that tends to get involved and be really vocal on issues.
Janet Thayer cares about history.
We've placed our land in a conservation easement, but the reason that we did that is to protect our land.
She and her husband own about 400 acres in Belt.
We have been for generations very good stewards of the land.
She's part of a vocal group.
What relevance is this to Montana?
Opposing the creation of a national heritage area in Cascade and Choteau counties.
We wish that some of them would do some better research so they would find out more about it, and maybe it would assuage some of their concerns.
NHAs free up federal money to drive tourism and the economy in areas of the country with special historical significance. Opponents are mostly private landowners concerned about their property rights.
And it says, right, as you can see right here, national heritage areas do not appear to have affected individual property rights.
Many opponents of NHAs rely on a report compiled from the conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation, which alleges certain instances of federal control over private land. An analysis updated in August of this year from the nonpartisan Congressional Research Service acknowledges those concerns, but still doesn't give evidence one way or the other about whether private property rights have been violated by NHAs. Regardless, NHAs have to be designated by Congress, who could write in special protections for private property owners on top of the ones that already exist.
People, especially in Montana, there's a lot of individualism in Montana. The hard thing that I have a hard time with is when people just take that and not understand where it all goes in terms of how it might impact them or not impact them, and to be able to listen to the whole story.
In Great Falls, Zach Shermley, MTN News.
Okay, when we come back, Curtis has your full Friday forecast and an update on what we can expect this weekend. And coming up later, a bill has cleared the way to forgive many marijuana convictions. Our Joe St. George has that full story when we come back.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenens.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Happy Friday to you all. We've got a nice mild air mass over not only Montana, but a lot of the west, all the way up into Canada here as well. Certainly it has not been cold. Maybe a little bit in the morning. Out in the Helena Valley, we got all the way down to 5 degrees this morning. That's pretty cold. Another mild day for Saturday and Sunday. Monday and Tuesday. Some places could hit 60 degrees. And then some cooler air starts coming in here on Wednesday into Thursday and on Friday. But this is the real cold stuff here. This is where we're down below zero. That stays way on off towards the north. Doesn't look like it comes down here anytime soon. A little night skiing on a Friday night here up at Great Divide. Certainly does look nice. Looks nice from Geyser looking back towards the Highwoods. In Great Falls, current temperature of 34 degrees. Southwest winds easing down here a little bit off of the Rocky Mountain front. In the capital, we're at 34 degrees and that wind is calm. Boy, it's been nice having no wind over the last few days, although the trade-off is cooler temperatures here, pretty much in the 30s. Again, there was a minor little front that kind of snuck through the north central part of the state here this afternoon. That's why those temperatures are much cooler. Cut Bank was 57 for the high yesterday. You can still see some of that warmth here down more towards the south central part of the state. And again, the wind really not that bad, and it has been extremely light, if not calm, in the western part of the state, and that will continue for the weekend into the start of next week. On the radar, nothing here, but I mentioned before around Whitefish and Kalispell, low clouds here that are really hanging tough through the northwest part of the state around Troy and Libby as well. Eureka looking at some low clouds, and that's not going to go anywhere now. So while most of the state is mostly sunny, it's not too nice for our friends and family that are up there in the northwest part of the state. Or if you talk to anybody in Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, at least east of the Cascades, likely looking at some pretty stagnant air there as well. Quiet here until I move. If I didn't move, the entire country looks pretty quiet, but that's going to be a pretty good little snowstorm for northern New England. Some places could get between a foot to 2 feet of snow. But here across the west, very quiet for this weekend. High pressure continues to dominate. There will be a few showers and some snow moving into Washington and Oregon here for Saturday night into Sunday. But watch that system just kind of run into that ridge of high pressure and just dissipate very, very quickly. So Saturday, mostly sunny in Montana. Sunday, mostly sunny. Monday, mostly sunny. Tuesday is when we start to see a little increase in the cloud cover coming in here. Wednesday, we could have a couple of mixed rain and snow showers. That's about it. Thursday is pretty quiet, but here comes maybe a little more potent of a system that could bring a few more snow showers, maybe a little light accumulation for Friday into Saturday. It does come with some colder weather as well. Until then, with the storm track off towards the north, that's where the snow will be. Right behind me over there, you can kind of see all of that snow into New England. But watch as we go into Tuesday night into Wednesday. That's when we start to fill in maybe a little snow, at least in the mountains of western Montana. Friday, we could have, again, a little light accumulation in some of the lower elevations. Light, talking inch to maybe 2 inches in some spots. For tonight, Not as warm or mild as the last few nights, but still not too bad. Teens and 20s here for the most part, 20s to about 30 degrees in central Montana. And there will be some spots, especially out in the Helena Valley, where it's down in the single digits again tonight, closer to Lake Helena and Lincoln Road, Silver City maybe. Here's the forecast for tomorrow. Upper 40s, lower to mid 50s. Great Falls should be right around 55 for the high temperature tomorrow. 40s and 50s out the high line with mostly sunny skies. Enjoy it while we have it here, because it's not going to last all winter long, and we should be right near 40 degrees around Helena. Low 40s potentially over the next few days here. Calm conditions may pop out of the inversion by Tuesday of next week. Wednesday, a couple of mixed rain and snow showers. Better chance for a little light dusting of some snow on Friday of next week. And for Great Falls, 50s the next several days, close to 60 degrees on Tuesday, before a little reality check by next Friday.
The House of Representatives passing for the first time today a bill that repeals a federal prohibition against marijuana. The bill also clears the way to forgive many marijuana convictions. While a number of states have legalized cannabis in recent years, it is still against the law at the federal level. Our Joe St. George explains what's next.
Friday's vote in the House of Representatives is a major moment for supporters of marijuana legalization nationwide. Because currently, under the Controlled Substances Act, marijuana is classified as a Schedule I drug at the federal level. For perspective, heroin is also classified as a Schedule I drug. Now, while federal laws haven't stopped marijuana from becoming legal in 15 states and normalized throughout much of the country, having marijuana illegal at the federal level restricts marijuana businesses from using banks, allows federal convictions to still occur, and prohibits the collection of federal taxes on cannabis as well. Federal workers can still be fired for testing positive, and scientific research is limited too.
The bill is passed.
The House vote, though, is for the most part largely symbolic for the time being. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, like many Americans, has been against decriminalization for decades and intends on blocking this legislation from ever coming up for a vote, which leads to this question. What could President-elect Joe Biden do on his own regarding marijuana laws? Well, he could allow federal employees to use cannabis. That would impact drug testing. It would involve an executive order. He could also attempt to reclassify it as a Schedule III or Schedule IV drug. That would have lesser penalties for possession and use. He could appoint an attorney general with a hands-off approach, and he could pardon those convicted of federal marijuana crimes as well. One big takeaway from today is that marijuana politics is certainly evolving in Washington, but it still may be several years before it's fully decriminalized at the federal level. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Coming up next on the news at 5, the Montana Air National Guard Fire Department is remembering one of its own who died unexpectedly. That full story when we come back.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching MTN News at 5.
Welcome back with us. The Montana Air National Guard Fire Department is remembering one of its own. MTN's Coulter Anstadt has more.
Just surreal to hear that he was gone.
Captain Glenn Gasvoda was a 28-year veteran with the Montana Air National Guard's Fire Department.
If you needed to know something, you know, he's one of the guys that you just could go to, and he'd have the back knowledge on why we did it that way or the way things worked around here.
According to his obituary, he had a heart attack and died while hunting on November 27th. His death is especially hard for Captain Nick Hackett, having known Gasvoda almost his entire life.
He's the reason I got on in the department up here. He showed me the department when I was about 16 years old, growing up with his 2 sons. And he was on my first shift up here, and I've worked with him on and off.
Senior Lieutenant Ben Hilpert says Gasvoda was a good friend and a guy's guy.
He loved life. He was always happy. He was a mentor. I looked up to the guy, and we had a lot in common, and we had a relationship both on and off duty, you know, so it's like you lost a brother.
Gasvoda's death is also an important reminder. According to the National Fire Protection Association, sudden cardiac death is the most common nature of injury for firefighters.
We make sure we get our hour workout in every shift that we're here, watching what we eat and everything, that we can be in as top shape as we possibly can. And it's just something that we have to make sure that we as individuals are all making sure that we take care of ourselves.
In Great Falls, Coulter Anstadt, MTN News.
Up next, we'll have 2020's top dog names of the year.
When we welcome our West Coast viewers, we go along for a simulated exercise of how some of the first COVID vaccinations will be administered, including why recipients will have to stick around after. And we hear from the race car driver whose survival from a fiery crash stunned the world on Nightly News.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching MTN News at 5.
The website rover.com released its list of 2020 top dog names. The top 3 female names for dogs were Bella, Luna, and Lucy. And for male dogs, they were Max, Charlie, and Cooper. Fun fact for everyone, Sam Hoyle, who works here at KTVH with us, his dog's name is Cooper. All right, that's all for us this Friday evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday night and weekend.